It's my second season here at Untitled, but before that, I've never been on a garden ever before. I was usually on fake grass, you know, on turf, and now I'm on real soil. It's really nice. It's still new to me. Eh? 2 seasons, it's just enough to understand that you don't know nothing. I wanted to be like closer to nature, you know. When I was young, I was always on a fake, like on turf, and every time I was going like making some hikes or everything in nature, I was feeling so great. And it was always sad to leave that place to go back on city and just like be around like fake natures. And now I'm living it for real now. Yeah, nature is awesome, man. It's crazy. Plant some seeds, come back later, make a little bit of work just to make them feel good, and after that you come to harvest, and that's really great. It's awesome. I'm always impressed.
And this time of the year, harvesting takes most of the time. There's big pepper harvests and tomato harvests. Beans takes time. And it's nice because there's almost nothing else to do. The weeding is almost over, and we're mid-September now, so there's no transplanting, almost no seeding. There'll be maybe just some seeding in the greenhouses left to do. That's it. So just cruising.
So I just came back from a trip to Europe, and I'm a bit jet lagged, first of all, so I have to say, not my best time, but I did have a great time down there. And I say Europe because I went to France and Germany in 7 days. So I left on a Saturday and I came back on a Sunday, so it was a really quick trip, and it was amazing. It was really great to see new friends, old friends, and it was something else to travel. I haven't traveled, like most people, I haven't been traveling for the last year and a half, you know, because of COVID, and man, it felt so good to be living these adventures again and to be moving. And it was kind of scary, that whole COVID part, because it's not very clear what the restrictions will be or what the restrictions are, or you know, it's kind of a journey where you don't really know all that's going to happen because of COVID, and you know, can you go into restaurants, can you do this, can you do that? But in the end, it was all good. A lot of people in the airports giving me the signal that, you know, life is slowly coming back to normal. But yeah, I missed traveling big time, and I'm really happy that I went. Even though it was really fast and I'm a bit tired now, I guess I'll be for the week. It was an amazing time. And especially France, because for me, France is it's really dear to my heart. As you know, my first language is French, and here in Quebec, you know, we operate in French. Everything is in French. We work in French. We talk to Mike in French. Whatever. We're all in French, and it's something really dear also because when my book came out, I don't know if people know this also, but my book came out in French first, and it became quite popular here in Quebec. And soon enough, I got invited to Paris to show my work. And that was really something. I think I was like 30 at the time, 31, 32. And I had been farming like a maniac for like 8 years, so it was really, you know, we were traveling, you know, we always would do surf trips in the winter. We went to Mexico with Modelaine and the kids, but you know, going to Europe, overseas, and visiting farms and talking about our farm here and my work and presenting my book was really special. And my dad came, and soon after he passed away, so it was, you know, when you have these moments where you're living something with your papa, and there's this kind of proudness of just having him being with you on a special moment. So that was it with him in Paris. Yeah, and when I went the first time, also Elliot, you know, Elliot Coleman, a friend of mine, and my mentor, and someone that I've always looked up to. Obviously, he's the one that wrote The New Organic Grower. It's a great farming book. If you haven't read it or check it out, I recommend that you do so. But Elliot, when he wrote his book, it was the book that influenced me the most to write mine. And he sent me a beautiful email at the time, and he was saying, you know, JM, market gardening started in France, and this whole concept of maximizing space and time and really being highly productive on small pieces of land and, you know, hectare farms or under 2 acre farms, that was all the norm in France in the early 1800s, 1900s. For almost 200 years, the market gardeners of Paris were like the best growers in the world. It was really well recognized and well described. There's a lot of books, and I have a few of them in my bookshelf that describe how they would operate and work. And so anyway, Elliot told me that his most inspiring moment that kind of set him off on his career was when he went to France and he visited this old grower that had like 2 acre market garden, really amazing, the most beautiful, productive space that he had ever seen. And that old grower was farming like his grandfather. So there was like a feeling of, you know, no tractor. It was a really different kind of scale and setup. And that's what influenced him the most to write his book. And anyway, long story short, guys, I'm sorry this is taking a while, but when I wrote my book, it was in French. And I got invited to Paris, and you know, the French, they don't speak good English. That's just how it is. And so he wrote me a letter saying, you know, that the fact that I was bringing this knowledge back to France, it was kind of like, it was closing the loop. Like the knowledge and the savoir-faire of these French maraichers was coming back to France. And so anytime I go back, I think about these stories, I think about my father, I think about Elliot, and I get really emotional about it. This time, I was visiting 2 farm projects. One is a place called Une Ferme du Perche. And that place is really amazing. It's like a 3 acre market garden that I helped design, and that I helped develop some of the different, you know, the washing station and the tool shed, and looking at the crop planter. And I'm kind of like overseeing some of the work that's being done there. But the whole purpose of me being involved on that farm is to kind of showcase some of the things that we've developed over the years here at La Gredinette and at FQT Farm, the other big farm where I spend a lot of time in France. Because a lot of French have read The Market Gardener, they know about my work, they want to do small acre plots, and they would always tell me, oh, we've read your book, it's really amazing, we do everything like you. And then I would ask questions, and they would just, you know, there was no permanent beds, and, you know, heavy mechanized, and it was on 2 acres, but it just wasn't the same style. And I really believe that until you kind of see it, what we do here, it's hard for people to imagine that such a small piece of land could be, you know, feeding 300 families, or, you know, providing income for for a family over all these years, or employ 4 people. That's just not common sense. So anyway, long story short, started that project 3 years ago, and because of COVID I hadn't been, so it's in their 2nd season and they're doing really well. And it was like, it's really cool for me to go there and see all the advancement and all the progress and all the adventures. And going to France it's the art of living. It's like the art of eating good food. It's the art of just kind of like drinking wine and eating. They really appreciate their vegetables. They know all the different cultivars. If you go to a market, there's just like 6 different types of carrots. That's just another reality. But that doesn't mean that they were great market gardeners, because, as I said, it was kind of lost until recently. And now it's definitely making a comeback. I personally know a lot of market gardeners that have started really amazing small farms in France, but that one is really special because this one I designed, and it's really something. And then I went to visit another farm, which is a former trainee of mine, Baptiste. Baptiste is a great guy, and also a great Elliot Coleman detour with him. Baptiste was trained first of all in France, and then he went and spent a little bit of time with Elliot at his 4-season farm, and then I hired him for 1 season with me at FQT farm. And he was like all the others. He was amazing, and we became friends, and he was asked if he could come back to Chambord and do a new farm project there. And Chambord, if you don't know what that is, it's like Versailles. It's one of the most visited castles in France. It's a very prestigious place, and it's like these old castles from that are historical gems, and a lot of people travel there. 2 million visitors a year, and he started this amazing market garden. It's about 4 acres, and just like at FQT, there's the field blocks with the permanent raised beds, and all between the field blocks, instead of having flowering hedgerows, he has those fruit trees that are growing on lines. I don't know how that's called in English, but they're kind of traced, and it's really amazing. And the size and the washing station, and I was really sad that I couldn't be with you guys there. I couldn't show you what I was seeing, and I'm really planning to come back and bring a camera and tell the story of these farms. But it was really amazing, and I was really fortunate because I'm kind of part of that story. They asked me to be the godfather of this farm, so it's kind of like my official duties to go there and just kind of hang out and drink great wine and check out what was going on. But I really need to show you pictures of this and a movie, or just, it's amazing. It's really amazing, and it's really amazing because it's also about when you design something that's really good, and then you show people how to do it, and then they go on and they do it. A lot of time they improve on the design. And that's what I've seen when I went to both of these farms in France. It's like they took some of our ideas here and they just took them a few notches further, which is really exciting for me, because it's all about that. It's all about passing down, it's all about improving, and it's all about showing to people that small-scale farming is important, and you can make a living at it, and when it's well done, it's really productive. So that was my trip. Then I went, that was like 4 days, and drank a lot of wine and hung out. It's really fun, met a lot of friends, old and new. And then I went to Germany and visited 2 farm projects there. When I do that, I'm always looking for tricks, how to improve my farming. I go to local shops and I look at the tools, and I'm always looking for ways to, some of them improve what I do. And one of that farm was Acapulco Farm. It was really small, beautiful market garden, well tended by 2 amazing young growers. And yeah, it was fast, but it was really inspiring. And what has inspired me the most when I think about my trip there, and Mike, I think you can relate to that, is that you can feel that something's happening. Not just here, you know. It's everywhere. People are thinking about going back to the land. And you know, you're a good example. You were a professional athlete, you were doing something else before. But then they find how, they go on YouTube or whatever, they read books, they're inspired to change their life, and then they do it and it works. And that's really what, you know, I come back inspired by, is that I visited, you know, 4 farms, 4 different contexts, 2 different countries in Europe, and some of the principles that we know work here, work there. And these people were excited, they were happy, they were selling out at the Berlin market. They were selling to 3 Michelin star chefs. And it was really cool. So, it was 7 days, 2 countries, big jet lag, taking COVID tests to come back, taking them twice. It was a lot of moving around, it was a lot of drinking wine, but it was really resourceful for me, and I feel really excited about having gone. And I've been going to France every year since the story I was telling with my papa, and I think I'll be planning to go more. It's just I like it there, and I like the history of market gardening. I always am looking for old books of farming and work done by Villemorin and all of this vintage like market gardening and vegetable growing, and this art of living that's there in France. It's so inspiring for me. It's really hard to describe, but it's really what I care about. And I think that the lifestyle that they had, I don't think today, because today it's just like us. There's supermarkets everywhere. The farms have gone super big, and yes, there's farmers market and there's people that know about fine food, but it wasn't like it was before for 100 years around Paris. But honestly, anytime we talk about the future, and if we were to use this word progress, I don't think the future is, having farms on Mars, or just like, I think the future is perhaps coming back and rediscovering how people lived beautiful lives, in other times. And that's my inspiration about France and rural living back then. And anytime I go, I'm really inspired. That's it? We're done? Okay. So I hope you like this week's episode. We'll be cranking those every week. And this week, obviously, because I've been gone, we're not showing you much, but we will. We'll be bringing the camera along on some of the trips that I make. My whole goal is to just show what our life is and why it's important, and try to communicate my passion with you guys and my enthusiasm if I can. If you've liked the episode, subscribe to the channel. We'll be airing new episodes every Monday. And if you're more curious about my farming style, check out the Market Gardener's Masterclass. It's an online course where I teach growers all over the world some of the techniques and strategies that we've developed here. And if you're also interested, check out the work that we do at Growers & Co. I've helped this brand develop. They do a lot of cool farm wear. These pants with knee pads. We spend a lot of time on our knees at the farm and having knee pads and clothing that's specifically designed for market gardeners was a dream of mine for so many years. Now it's happening. Check out their store, it's really cool. And besides that's it for this week. I hope you're well. And if anything else, farm on. JM out.